Welcome everyone to week 3. This week we went over the chapter of our textbook that is communication and self. We'll also be talking about our agenda, which includes the self-concept paper, which is our first major assignment for this class. The rubric and the explanation for the chapter is already open in modules week 3. In the submission page, that is where you'll also find the rubric for the assignment. So far, we have learned about how we see ourselves and project ourselves to others. We've also learned how gender and culture impacts that as well. In the assignment, you'll be asked to interview 3 people and ask at least 5 questions. We want to know how these others see you. The assignment page has more details, but I want to know more about you through different lenses. You will also be required to adapt at least one concept so far that we have learned, including this chapter. We'll also be looking over the key points of the text. It is still really important that you read the text, but these are just supplemental videos to kind of go through and break them down for you so they're more manageable, bite-sized pieces. So we'll be talking about the self-concept, self-esteem, image management, and self-disclosure. So to start, we're talking about self-concept. What is self-concept? Quite literally, it is your identity. It is who you are, and it reflects your ideas about who you are. I have added into the week 3 module a video. It's a pop culture reference, which is from Boy Meets World. If anyone's familiar with the show, great. If not, this is a great soiree into Boy Meets World. It's about how Eric Matthews, one of the main characters, identifies himself, but his teacher, Mr. Feeney, provides another perspective of who he is. So if you haven't already, go ahead and give that video a watch. And this kind of gives you a little bit of a better idea of how we can adapt the ideas of identity and self-concept. So self-concept is multifaceted and partly objective or partly subjective, sorry. This means that, objectively, you can't see me today, but objectively, I am I'm 5'6", I'm 130 pounds, I have brown eyes, and right now I have blonde hair. Those are matters of fact. That is something that if you looked at me, that is who you would identify physically of what I look like. But subjectively, I may tell you that I am an avid reader. I am kind. I am patient. I am loud. Loud, I guess, could kind of be objective as well, but a little bit subjective depending on what you think loud is. Concepts are enduring, but are absolutely changeable. Who I was at 16 is now who I am today. I want you to pause on this next slide and think. So this is the Johari window. And this little 4 square is how we see or how we identify to others and how others identify us. So in the top left-hand corner, this is the open corner. This is the open square. This is what is known to us and known to others. It's what you choose to reveal about yourself to others and reveal to yourself. The one next to it, where you see the words blind, it is unknown to you, but it is known to others. And this is what others know about you, but you don't really recognize about yourself. So, if you think about it, sometimes we are our own biggest critic. So someone might see how we can be very successful in something, but because we're so down on ourselves, we may not see it ourselves. And so that's the blind square. In the hidden square is something that we know to ourselves, but we don't share with others. So this could be a mental health struggle. This could be something that you might deem embarrassing and you don't want to reveal, or personal. And then in the bottom right corner where you see unknown, this is the dimension of yourself that no one knows, not even you. Something you haven't discovered yet. Like what kind of parent you're going to be if you're not a parent now. What you're going to do after college, what your life like that is going to be like. So sit on this slide for a few minutes and think about yourself and what you would put in each window. Obviously, you won't put anything in the unknown window because that's something that you don't know about yourself right now. So, hoping you had a moment to stop and self reflect about who you see yourself as in that Johari window. We're moving on to continuing into self concepts. Many factors affect our self concepts, whether that be biology, our personality, our gender and cultural roles, which we talked about in the last chapter, and social comparison as well. A study conducted on college age men in 2003 showed that Men's Health, which is the magazine, when depicting a successful man as having high fashion sense, financial success, and a muscular build. And when these college-age men were exposed to the magazine, it linked to body dissatisfaction among men in that study. And so, if we're thinking about body image, we're oftentimes in pop culture or in mainstream media, we see that image, and it's often a teenage girl or women struggling with it. But in fact, it is something that everybody deals with, regardless of gender. Now, talking about self-monitoring as part of our identity, it's when it's the level, I should say, of the awareness that we have of how we sound, look, and affect others. So, people with high self-monitoring oftentimes are their image or their identity is highly impacted by others, by external sources, because they want to make sure that how they look and sound to others is portraying a positive or uh, like a positive image to those people. Low self-monitoring, you can think of this as people who rely less on what others think about them and more on their own satisfaction with how they look, sound, and affect others. Now, I'm hoping that many of us have heard of the self-fulfilling prophecy or have a general idea of what a self-fulfilling prophecy is. But it kind of reinforces our identity. We have these expectations about how we are or how we're perceived. And that expectation kind of prompts us to act one way or another. These actions bring out the outcomes we expected because we acted the way we wanted. We acted the way that we intended the results to show. And so sometimes the self-fulfilling prophecy, I mean, oftentimes it's related to like a negative outcome. It's like, oh, you know what? You wake up, it's a bad day. I'm going to have a bad day. And because you already have it in mind that you're going to have a bad day, your actions lead to that. And then you say, see, I was right. I had a bad day. It was a bad day. But what if we changed the message to wake up and say, today is going to be a good day? How would our actions impact that day? There's obviously external factors that can be out of our control, but when we can control with whatever we can, we should, because based on the concept, the self-fulfilling prophecy, our actions will help prompt the outcome. This is a reading as part of your assignments for this week. It is in week 3 module, and it's about the self-fulfilling prophecy. And it also kind of goes through more in depth about it, but also how we can use it to our benefit. So go ahead and give that a read as well. And that'll be a little bit more on this portion of the chapter. Now, going from self concepts and identity to self-esteem, your self-esteem is a subjective evaluation of your value and worth as a person. Your self-esteem can be impacted by a lot of external factors, including social behaviors, your friend groups, your social media, your work, your school performance. All of those can be impacts. And your self-esteem can also be impacted by culture and sex. With social media strongly impacting, a study was conducted in 2008 by Robson, Callister, and Jankowski. And it says that children are attracted to various celebrities and fictional characters on sitcoms. And based on what they look like, they evaluated those comparisons, their own comparisons based on the celebrities' attributes like body weight. So young viewers who had celebrity role models often associated lower self-esteem and lower self-worth. So it just showed that children were more vulnerable to comparative thinking, based on if they watched certain shows as a children. So that's a concept when we think about how self-esteem, or when self-esteem kind of really hits. It just shows that self-esteem is something that's developing from a very young age. Continuing with self-esteem, there are three fundamental needs with respect to self-esteem. It's the need for control, the need for inclusion, and the need for affection. So being included, loved, and being able to have control of all of that, it really impacts our self-esteem. In week 3 module, I've added a short TED Talk video, and it really discusses the importance of building self-esteem and starting that at a young age, but also how it changes if we have to start developing that as adults, or we change the development based on it as adults. So go ahead into week 3 module and take a look at that as well. I've now adapted this way of showing videos after last week's snafu where I couldn't show you any videos because it got blocked thanks to US copyrights. So take a look at those. Image management is just how it sounds. It's adjusting your behavior to protect a desired image. It's how you want people to see you. It's how we manage multiple identities. So if you think about it, as your professor, I probably project or I try to project a more professional image of who I am. Someone who thinks that or appears as if they have it all under control, or has a good grasp on things. When in reality, my image for others for my family may feel, especially, I mean, looking at, like, say, my mom, for example, my mom may see me more as her little girl who will always need some sort of help. Or my husband may see me as a strong, independent woman who doesn't need his help. And those are all different faces or image managements that I maintain. And so think about it for yourself. How many different images that you portray to others around you? So kind of talking about our image management, we also probably all heard the term saving face. And that's making sure that we are maintaining that positive image, or that image we want to portray to others. There's the fellowship face, which is the need to feel liked and accepted by others. Like we want that from other people. The autonomy face, on the other hand, is the need to avoid being imposed on by others. It's that our autonomy face that motivates us to be in control of our time and resources, so other people don't make decisions for us. So we have our own autonomy. And then our competence face is the need to be respected and viewed as competent, intelligent by others. And I always go back to, like, my teen years, for example, when I was trying to convince my mom that it's fine, I can stay, or my preteen, I guess, 13 years old. I could stay home by myself. Mom, I'm perfectly capable of taking care of myself. That was me trying to show my mom, like, my competence face, right? Like, that was me requiring that sort of trust from my mother that I could stay home by myself. And this is different for everybody. But these are different types of faces that you all use. We all have different images we portray to different people. And that's common because not everyone is the same, but you are around a vast group of people. And so it's a normal reaction to make sure that you're making yourself as likable to whoever you surround yourself with. So going from self-esteem to self-disclosure, we kind of talked about this in the Johari window, but self-disclosure is the act of intentionally giving others information about ourselves that we believe true, but we think that they don't already know about us. You can see this often when you're getting to know somebody. You tell them everything about you, but we'll go into this a little more when we talk about how much you truly give to others. So part of self-disclosure, the intent is to be intentional with what you're telling them and truthful. Obviously, we don't want to lie to people about who we are. And it varies in breadth and depth. And what I mean by breadth and depth is, think about when you first start dating somebody. On a first date, you might go over a wider breadth of knowledge, which means you might go over more topics, and that is all surface level things like your favorite color, your favorite food, whether you have pets, your siblings. Um, but then as the relationship progresses and you get into a deeper connection with that person, the depth then grows the more you talk. So maybe you learn more about their relationship with their siblings. Is it a good relationship? Is it a bad one? And from that, you can also learn as you continue with depth. Maybe you learn more about the family mental health struggles or things like this. So breadth and depth. Breadth, think of about how many things, and depth, think about how deep, obviously. And this is something common we'll see in relationships. And like I mentioned, it's a gradual process. You don't immediately go on a first date and tell your first date about everything and trauma that has come in your life. And that'll probably scare them away, let's be honest, right? So thinking about that, think about that first date example when you think about breadth and depth. Parts of self-disclosure change vastly when we do it online. It doesn't follow the same pattern. A lot of people believe that's just because self-disclosure online, you can be and do whoever you want, and you don't necessarily have any checks and balances for that. Um, but in all walks of self-disclosure, it's usually reciprocal, which kind of means I will tell you something in hopes that you reciprocate and tell me something about yourself. It's a part of vulnerability that says, I want to learn more about them. And in order to do that, I know that I have to tell them something about myself. It's how you develop relationships. It serves many purposes, not just relationship wise, but it can also help for business. If you're trying to relate to somebody you're trying to sell something to, you might connect with them by giving them a piece of information about yourself. It's also effective in cultural and gender roles. It has benefits, like I've mentioned, about enhancing your relationships, getting reciprocal information from other people, but it also helps you emotionally. Sometimes holding on to something about yourself can be heavy, it can be weighted. And by telling other people about it, you're helping release some of that emotion for yourself. But you could be unknowingly or knowingly helping others. If you know someone is struggling and you tell them that you've been through that struggle before, you can use that type of relation to develop a better relationship, but also help them if they are going through something that they're struggling with. Like everything in life, self-disclosure comes with risks. There's a chance of rejection if you tell somebody something about yourself that they don't accept. There's a chance of hurting others. Maybe you tell somebody something about yourself that they find hurtful. And it can be a violation of people's privacy. These are all things that we have to consider when we're telling people things about ourselves. It's not to say that we have to hide who we are, but we have to be mindful of if we tell people about ourselves, we also run the risk of not being compatible with others. And like I mentioned, with online self-disclosure being different, it also has its own types of risks and challenges. When you say something online or you post something online, it belongs to the internet forever. It is so hard to take something off the internet, if not impossible, if you don't have the proper means for it. So you always have to be careful with what you say. It has more of a permanence than any other sort of disclosure. You also want to protect your personal information, obviously not sharing your location, your social security number, your banking information, even your cell phone. When you post things online, think about think about it. It's not something that you want to show or share forever. And that goes with posting photos. This is a safety thing. If you're somewhere and you have a public social media page and you post about it, that could be telling somebody that you're not home. And somebody could break into your home because they know you're not there. So we always think about posting online because of its permanence. It has its own special challenge and risks associated with